What up, what up, what up, people? What up? It's me, L Teddy 27. I apologize. I was supposed to have this video up on Wednesday before all of the Thursday games, but needless to say, I had a lot going on, and we won't speak on that on here. Just know I'm okay, but it was a lot that happened over the last couple of days. So anyway, so I apologize, but be that as it may, howbeit, we are here. I don't even know why I picked this tie. I don't even like this tie. It just never acts right, but we're gonna try to make it do what it do, like we do every week. We're gonna do what it do. All right. So, yeah. This week is week 13 of our NFL season. And for some leagues, this is the last week before the playoffs. You probably at this point, you're already in. Maybe you need this week to get in. But for the majority of leagues, good leagues, I should say, this is the last week before the playoffs start, because no good commissioner lets their league go to week 17, because week 17 a lot of teams sit players, and you never want to deal with that on the Super Bowl weekend of your fantasy league. So be that as it may, let me just say I know most people are starting the playoffs this week, so let's try and do it. So here's what we got this week. We got more than we normally do. So we're doing 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends, 1 sleeper. 4 receivers, 4 running backs, and 1 sleeper for each of those. So I wanted to make sure that that we gave you a lot of options this week. All right, let's get to it. Quarterbacks, we got 3. Jameis Winston, Tampa Bay, at Jacksonville, which is essentially a home game because Tampa is only about maybe about 2.5 hours. Well, maybe about 2.5 hours if you drive right, maybe 3. Because to get across the I-4 corridor takes you about 1.5, 2 hours. And then to get from where the I-4 corridor meets I-95 up to Jacksonville is only about 45 minutes to an hour. So about 3 hours. It's right there. So that's essentially a home game for Tampa Bay. I figured Tampa Bay to win that game, but this is our game of the week. I started off with our game of the week. Expect a lot of points in this game. This is the game where you want to start specifically on Tampa Bay's side. So I like Jameis Winston this week. Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals, I like him. And they're going to be at home versus the Los Angeles Rams. You know that Los Angeles Rams defense. I don't know what happened to that front 7. I don't know what happened to this vaunted defense they had maybe about, not last year really, but about 2 years ago. That defense was pretty decent. Now the bottom has fell out, and they're not doing anything over there in for the Rams. So I like Kyler Murray to do well this week. I like both Winston and Kyler Murray to both get you 20-plus points easy this week. I also like Carson Wentz at home for Philadelphia, and they're at home versus Miami. He's getting most of his receivers back. I know Alshon Jeffries is coming back, and he should have more of his receivers back this week. So I figure Carson Wentz to do well this week, especially it's Miami. We talk about this every week. So look for Carson Wentz, I figure, to give you 20-plus points as well. Our sleeper of the week, and he may not be a sleeper. Maybe you want to put him as a must start, but I put him as a sleeper. Is Nick Foles of the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the at home versus Tampa Bay. I told y'all that's my game of the week. I figured that game to be a track meet. So look for that game to be a lot of points, to give you a lot of points. For our tight ends this week, I like Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings, and they are at Seattle. Now, Seattle has improved against the tight end, because remember, they were horrible. They were just as horrible versus the tight end as Arizona was first part of the season, and they have improved. But I figure Zach Rudolph to still do well. They'll be in Seattle. A good tight end is a safety net for a quarterback in Seattle with the 12th man and all of that good stuff. So I figure Kyle Rudolph to do well. Look for these tight ends this week to give you 10 to 12 points, which is good for a tight end, okay? I like also Tyler Higbee of the Los Angeles Rams. He's going up against the Arizona Cardinals. I don't need to tell you any more. We know any tight end versus the Arizona Cardinals, you start them every chance you get. Look for him to do well. That's Tyler Higbee of the Los Angeles Rams. And finally, Hunter Henry of the Los Angeles Chargers. I still say San Diego Chargers. But of the Chargers, Hunter Henry, tight end versus Denver. That middle of the defense for Denver is still suspect. And so usually slot receivers and tight ends do well against that Denver defense. So this is really of this game. Really on the Chargers side, I should say, that's the only player I put any confidence in this week. Is the tight end Hunter Henry. I don't even like Phillip Rivers in this game, but I like Hunter Henry this game against Denver. My sleeper is going to be Jack Doyle of Indianapolis. With Eric Ebron being hurt and out, I like Eric Ebron. Not Eric Ebron. With Eric Ebron being out, I like Jack Doyle of the Indianapolis Colts to do well. They'll be home versus Tennessee. And the Colts usually do well with division games. They usually, step up their game when they're playing division rivals. And with this being a division game for them, I like Jacoby Brissett to I like the Indianapolis offense to do well. Specifically, I like Jack Doyle to be the recipient of some great catches and maybe a couple and maybe a touchdown or so. So look for Jack Doyle to be a good sleeper. For our running backs this week, Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be the starter. He's going to get the lion's share of the carries for the that backfield of the Philadelphia Eagles. They'll be versus the Miami Dolphins. I don't need to say more. Miles Sanders, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Miami Dolphins. I don't need to say any more. I like Philip Lindsay of the Denver Broncos. He's going to also get the start versus the Chargers. The Chargers are imploding. So I figured Denver to win this game. I also figured Denver to, because this is a division game as well. But I figure Denver to win out, and I figured the Philip Lindsay to carry the ball and carry it well for that Denver backfield. I like Darius Guys of the Washington Redskins. I liked what he did last week. I'm looking for him. He's not going to, I don't see him doing well early on. I figure after some time, after they wear down the Carolina defense, because they'll be at Carolina, I like him to do well in the second half. So, Darius Guys of the Washington Redskins, all my DC folk, my Really BTV and Jaded Nerd, and all my DC folks are gonna like hearing that I'm picking him this week. So that's Darius Guys of the Washington Redskins, and they're going against they'll be at Carolina. And I like Jonathan Williams of the Indianapolis Colts, and they'll be at home versus Tennessee. I told you Indianapolis, they step their game up when it's a division game, and with this being a division game and them being at home, I expect them to do well this week. Okay. And finally, my sleeper is going to be Ronald Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's slated to get the start, and they'll be at Jacksonville. I told you this is basically a home game for Tampa Bay. Also, I told you this is my game of the week where it should be a track meet, a lot of points early and often. Our wide receivers for this week are, we're going to start off once again. I'm choosing DK Metcalf. I expect him to do well. He's a big, bulky, fast receiver. And I mean, really, he's really built like a tight end more so than a receiver, but he has the speed of a receiver, and they put him out there. And the secondary of the Seattle Seahawks is not. I'm sorry, not the Seattle Seahawks. Although I love the secondary of the Minnesota Vikings, they don't do well against big receivers like a DK Metcalf. So I wonder if they'll put Xavier Rhodes on him. But I do like him to get you at least 15 points. I like DK Metcalf to get you somewhere between 12 to 15 points, probably closer to 15. I like Tyler Boyd this week. I figured Tyler Boyd against the New York of the Cincinnati Bengals versus the New York Jets to get off. I like him for 15 points this week. Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals, and they'll be at home versus the New York Jets. I like Robert Woods of the Los Angeles Rams. He came back last week. He looked good. I like that to continue. I like Jared Goff to go to him like he used to last year and year before. And so they'll be at Arizona. Y'all know Arizona secondary, is, real loose, real loosey-goosey. They can't stop a nosebleed in that secondary in Arizona. So I like Robert Woods to get off, and they'll be at Arizona. And he's of the Los Angeles Rams. And I like Dede Westbrook of the Jacksonville Jaguars at home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I told y'all that's our game of the week. So look for that game to be a track meet. My sleeper this week, and I almost shudder to say this person's name and to pick him because he is always, every time I pick him, he doesn't do us right. But I'm going to go out on a limb this week and say that I like Will Fuller. I know. And I know with me saying that nobody's going to pick him because what he's done to us all season. We pick him, he does nothing. We don't pick him, he goes off. And so this will be and he did pretty decently last week. So of course with me picking him this week, he's going to do nothing. You watch. But I don't know. He's still on my sleeper list. Will Fuller of the Houston Texans. And they'll be at home versus New England. Yeah. I'm picking him because I figured the New England secondary to focus on DeAndre Hopkins. So that's why I'm picking Will Fuller. We'll see how that goes. And now for our favorite part of the week's video, our L Teddy 27's fantasies. So I found in our Google search, and I don't even have where's my whiteboard? Y'all know I've been doing y'all so wrong. I'll spell it out anyway. But I find that it's easier if you put their name and you put muscle afterward instead of shirtless. Because sometimes shirtless doesn't give you a lot. But if you put muscle or muscles after their name in your Google image search, it usually yields better results. Just a little hint. Type their name and type muscles in your Google image search and get your life. Our first fantasy of the week, fantasy of the week is Sterling Shepard of the New York Giants. He's a wide receiver. Both of our fantasies this week are a little light brights. Light bright, turn on the magic of colored lights. Yeah, both of them are light brights. So I like Sterling Shepard as our first fantasy of the week. Go type him up. Just a little cutie. A little light bright. He's a wide receiver for the New York Giants. And that's Sterling is his first name. Last name is Sherpard. Sterling Shepard. And you want to type in his name and put muscles afterwards. Our second fantasy of the week is going to be Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, that's Christian. Kirk is Kirk. Shouts out to my boy Captivating Christian, who's another fantasy. One of my YouTube buddies. If you ain't following him, you need to go follow him. He's a real hottie. Anyway, shouts out to my boy Captivating Christian. But our second fantasy of the week is Christian Kirk. He's a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Um, and yeah, type in his name and type in muscles and get your life. And those are our picks for this week. I hope everybody does well this week. Hopefully everybody gets into the playoffs. Hopefully I get into the playoffs because oh God, I need this week for most of my leagues to make the playoffs because I'm right there on the border. If I win and a couple other things happen, I'll make it. If I lose, I'm definitely out. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Don't feel bad about my picks because in my fantasy leagues I'm um bordering or maybe not making the playoff. It's only because my fantasy leagues are filled with people. Some of them have actual whole websites and blogs where all they do is do fantasy picks and fantasy. They do fantasy everything: fantasy football, basketball, baseball. They do it all. So I'm in some leagues with some very competitive. So that's why in some of my fantasy leagues, it's hard to make it happen. So anyway, that's my picks for the week. We'll be back next week with the playoff edition of our picks. Lay round for it. Let's do this thing. We'll be back next week. That's all I got for y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely.